Diddy Kong Racing was a spin-off of the popular Donkey Kong Country series that helped Rare establish itself as one of Nintendo's best developers in the 90s. It was a game that combined the kart-style racing genre popularized by Mario Kart with open-world 3D platforming that required searching for specific items to advance the game. And it was all conceived as a last-ditch attempt to give Nintendo a major first-party title for the 1997 holiday season. Developer Rare had been making video games since 1986. Founded by Tim and Chris Stamper, former developers for the company Ultimate played the game. The Stampers' first game from Rare would be Slalom for the arcade. They would go on to produce Nintendo games based on a variety of licensed properties, from games based on television game shows to games based on films that had just come out. Occasionally, they would release original standout titles like the Wizards and Warriors games, Snake Rattle and Roll, and arguably Rare's most popular title from the Nintendo era, Battletoads. But going back to their early years, you would find another original title, RC Pro-Am, a racing game full of power-ups, traps along the road, and short but fun track design. Sound familiar? That's because RC Pro-Am would predate other racing games of similar natures. With hit after hit, Rare became the biggest video game developer from the United Kingdom and one of Nintendo's top-tier first-party developers. Notable for finding ways to push the presentation of their games to the absolute limit. But 1994 would arguably be Rare's biggest year with the release of Donkey Kong Country. With 3D gaming starting to be a thing, and 16-bit consoles slowly losing their visual appeal, a game that looked and sounded like Donkey Kong Country did, being played on a console that was originally released in 1990, was unprecedented at the time. And it would mark the beginning of Nintendo's reliance on Rare releasing one big title during subsequent holiday seasons, with the 1995 season getting Donkey Kong Country 2, and the 1996 season getting both Donkey Kong Country 3 and Killer Instinct Gold. 1997's major holiday release would be Banjo-Kazooie, an original 3D platformer in the same vein of the widely successful Super Mario 64, which would appeal to all audiences when compared to Rare's other 97 releases like Blast Corps and GoldenEye. This would be yet another major release for Nintendo just in time for the holidays. Until Banjo-Kazooie got delayed to 1998. Nintendo did not have any major release planned for the holidays, so a decision had to be made, and fast. While half of the Rare team was working on Killer Instinct Gold, it was rumored that the other half was working on a brand new game, Wild Cartoon Kingdom, a real-time strategy game that combines time travel focused primarily on the prehistoric era with Disney World. The decision was then apparently made to convert the game into a follow-up to their innovative RC Pro-Am series, Pro-Am 64. This rumor was debunked by Rare 3D animator Lee Musgrave, who says that while Killer Instinct Gold was worked on, the plan had always been for the other half of Rare to produce a new racing game. When Banjo-Kazooie got delayed, it was decided that Pro-Am 64 would instead be Rare's major holiday release of 1997. But the dilemma with that was that the intellectual property would not be recognizable to a modern audience. So Rare retooled Pro-Am 64 into Diddy Kong Racing. A decision that made Nintendo happy, especially considering that Rare themselves chose to center the game around Diddy Kong, Rare's own creation, rather than risk using Donkey Kong, Nintendo's creation going back to 1981. Lucky for Rare, the game had already been mostly done while being developed as Pro-Am 64. The game would also unintentionally mark the first official appearance of Banjo the Bear and the first appearance of Conker the Squirrel, star of another platformer game Rare had been working on, until it became the infamous Conker's Bad Fur Day, released in 2001. After Diddy Kong Racing's announcement, Nintendo quickly launched an extensive marketing campaign leading up to the game's holiday release.
So you were trying to pick up a balloon, but you were sideswiped by a squirrel, hit an oil slick, and smashed into the hind leg of a brontosaurus? Dirk, Was Diddy a part of this? Tragic.
Comparisons were quickly made to Mario Kart 64, which was ironically released outside of Japan in 1997, the same year that Diddy Kong Racing would be released worldwide. Diddy Kong Racing would become yet another successful hit for Rare and the Nintendo 64. The game would be Rare's second best-selling game on the system behind GoldenEye, and would become the system's 8th best-selling game. A sequel to the game was developed for the GameCube, Donkey Kong Racing. But when Rare was acquired by Microsoft in 2002, Donkey Kong Racing was retooled into an adventure game based on Ultimate Play the Game's Saberman franchise worked on in the 80s for the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. That game would end up being cancelled. Another sequel was produced for the Game Boy Advance, Banjo Pilot, originally conceived as Diddy Kong Pilot. Banjo Pilot would be released in 2005. Diddy Kong Racing would get a re-release for the Nintendo DS under the title Diddy Kong Racing DS, released in 2007. This release would feature visual improvements, new courses, new playable characters, online multiplayer, and custom track and character designs. As quickly as it was announced and promoted, Diddy Kong Racing would quickly become one of the Nintendo 64's most memorable releases and one of the most innovative racing games on any console. It saved Nintendo's holiday season in 1997 and once again showed that Rare was capable of producing high-quality games for the Nintendo systems. Diddy Kong Racing, composed by David Wise. It started as a real-time strategy game. Seriously, look it up. Then it became a spiritual successor to Rare's racing game released on the original Nintendo RC Pro-Am. And it would have remained that way had Banjo-Kazooie, Rare's most anticipated title at the time, not been delayed from the 97 holiday season to the summer of 98. After Banjo-Kazooie's delay, Rare needed a strong enough IP to help them do well financially during the holiday season. So they turned the would-be spiritual successor into an adventure meets kart racing title built around a character that helped Rare through the Super Nintendo years, Diddy Kong. Rare already had hits on the Nintendo 64 with Killer Instinct Gold, Blast Corps, and GoldenEye. None of those games featured the one composer that originally helped enhance the experience of playing a Donkey Kong Country game, David Wise. Diddy Kong Racing would be his next composition job after Donkey Kong Country 3 Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, which Evelyn Fisher was the primary composer of. In an interview with Square Enix Music, Wise states that for the score, he unashamedly paid tribute to some of the great Nintendo compositions from Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64, with every cliché he could lay reference to, with a bit of added Diddy Kong icing on top. For being developed as Diddy Kong Racing in such a short amount of time, the game is fondly remembered as being one of the best racing games on a Nintendo system. Even when game reviewers weren't big fans of the game, they still couldn't help but give credit to how dynamic, fitting, and catchy the soundtrack was throughout. It is still debated as to whether Mario Kart 64 or Diddy Kong Racing was the superior racing title on the Nintendo 64. But regardless of which racer you preferred, you still got a memorable racing title with a memorable soundtrack, and Diddy Kong Racing was definitely enhanced by David Wise, who already knew how to use music to amplify the Donkey Kong franchise, and did so while simultaneously paying homage to the games that inspired what Diddy Kong Racing became.
Do you know how to use one of these?
GoldenEye. Load a rumble pack and see how it feels when 007 meets N64.
めっちゃめちゃにして
めっちゃめちゃに壊す、燃える、余る、のめり込む、やればやるほど面白い任天堂64ブラストドーザー6800円。